we're going to talk about effective narration and talking about stories. So my name's Tim Montrief. I'm at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. And here's just a few tips and tricks that we can use to really increase engagement, increase our educational value through storytelling. So I have no conflicts of interest. However, I have one conflict. As someone who loves lecturing, I feel bad saying that most lectures are boring. Most of the lectures that we go to have just a data dump. Most is just delivered in lecture halls, medical conferences. But the uncomfortable truth is that a lot of the stuff that we talk about, a lot of the information we give out is not really retained. Our lecturing style has remained stagnant despite the fact that our understanding of how people learn has changed throughout the years. But we can help fix that. And the way we're going to do it is by engaging narratives. Storytelling is a very powerful way of engaging your audience, of increasing your learning. And overloaded facts does not really equal an abundance of learning. And what is better than looking at our education industry? Education is entertainment. The most effective presenters, lecturers, and teachers engage with their audience and their material, displaying enthusiasm for their message. Today, we're going to go over a few techniques you can use when you're planning your next presentation, whether it's for your department, a national lecture, and really make it more about the story. So let's say you received word from your department chair that you were volunteered to give the residents a lecture on the management of diabetic ketoacidosis. So what do you do first? Open up your laptop, fire up PowerPoint. Do you dig through your pile of unread journal articles to find the latest and greatest research on DKA? The first thing I'd suggest is to go analog. Take a big step back. One of the most important things we can do in the initial stage of preparing your presentation or your lecture is to get away from your computer. You try to make your content before you really do the structure or the story when you use PowerPoint. So grab your pen and paper, sit down, sketch out your ideas, and really think about what you want your audience to learn and what the bigger picture is. Set up the structure before you go into the nitty-gritty of creating your lecture. And know your audience. Right? The advice may not be new and it may not sound exciting, but it's true. Know your audience. You need to focus on your audience because if they don't engage or if you don't make your information relevant to them, it doesn't matter how nice your slides are or how polished your delivery is. They won't be listening. The instructions your high school speech teacher gave you to imagine everyone in their underwear is officially obsolete. You should imagine them all in colorful clothes with superhero emblems because they are the heroes charged with incorporating the knowledge you're delivering into their clinical practice, into their educational practice. When it comes to presenting, it's not all about you. It's about the audience. So then what's your role? You are the Yoda to their Luke Skywalker. The audience is the one doing all the heavy lifting. Your job is to be one voice, helping them get unstuck in their journey, figure out how you can help them. And when I do that, I like to think of two questions. What keeps them up at night? What problems do my learners encounter on a day-to-day basis? For our example, what parts of DKA management are frustrating? What isn't so clear? What do they care about? What are they going to engage with? And how am I going to make their lives better? What knowledge can I provide to help fix their problems? How can I get this hero unstuck in their journey? That's going to be your core message. Data, evidence, logical flow are really important, but we can't lose sight of the message. Often talks take people down a path of great detail, loads of information, tons of crazy charts, most of which is completely forgotten if it was ever understood in the first place after the talk is finished. The more details you include, the more complex your talk is, the more you need to be very clear on what it is you want your audience to hear, understand, take into practice on their next day. So what are those critical things your learners really need to take away from your presentation? If they remember one thing, what is it? Focus on that and start building your narrative structure around that. You may want to include 2 to 4 teaching points revolving around this core message, but always remember the core message. I'll put a sticky note, write down my core message, and then put it on the wall when I'm making my presentation. And really, you should be answering the 2 questions. What's your point? What's the big point in your presentation? And why does it matter to your learners? That's how you're going to engage them with the narrative. And so once you get your core idea, the next step is to go ahead and craft your narrative. Finally, we get to the meat of the presentation here, right? Presentations have the potential to hold the audience's interest just like a great movie. You can sit through No Country for Old Men or The Godfather for hours watching the same thing, and people are very engaged. But people will go to sleep in a 20-minute lecture, right? You need an identifiable story pattern. If there's no structure, no narrative, just a collection of facts and data, people aren't going to engage with your story. So the first thing, once you get your core message, you know your audience, you have how you can help them, you want to make your narrative. And I love storyboarding, right? Storyboarding is an excellent way to visualize the structure of your presentation. It started in the film industry. Hollywood's finest go ahead, put down storyboards to plan the story, plan the structure, plan how everything's going to be presented to the audience. So some tips when you go to storyboard, because it can be pretty challenging the first couple of times. Keep it simple. Draw a small visual representation of your ideas on those little 1 by 1.5 by 2 inch sticky notes. I love them because they even look like slides. Put them up on your wall and really try to constrain your ideas to these small spaces, which really forces you to use simple language, clear words, pictures as proof of concept before going and messing around in PowerPoint. And don't be embarrassed by your rudimentary sketches. This is an idea phase. Doodles work fine as long as you can understand them. And if you can't, they're probably too complex for your storyboard anyhow. Try to limit yourself to one idea per slide. You have a million slides. You have enough slides, but try to get one idea across. There's no reason to crowd stuff. So we have our idea. We know how we're going to help our audience, and we've storyboarded out. But we still need our structure, which is where the next part comes in. So we know that most great presentations follow the same structure. Most stories follow the same structure. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. The beginning is just like the beginning of any movie or story, setting the stage, right? You're describing the audience's ordinary world, setting the baseline of what is. This often includes a case presentation, a problem, or something to really draw them in and say, I have that exact same problem. Yeah, let's talk about it. You should really strive to engage the audience by putting them in a familiar situation or something they've struggled with in the past. And then you're going to come to this first turning point, a blue dot, the call to adventure. This signals a significant shift in your content. The call to adventure asks the audience to jump into a situation that, unbeknownst to them, requires their attention and action. You're putting forth a memorable big idea and conveying what could be. How can this situation be better? This is a moment when you're creating a contrast between what is, the problem, and what could be, the solution or the information you're providing. The middle of your presentation is going to be bouncing in between these types of contrasts. People are naturally drawn to contrast. Life's surrounded by it. Day and night, male and female, up and down, love and hate. Your job as a presenter is to create and resolve tension through what is and what could be. You're presenting your information and contrasting it with the problem, building your case as you go. This is going to keep your audience engaged because they enjoy experiencing a dilemma and its resolution. Even if they don't like the viewpoint that you're providing, it keeps them interested. Finally, you're going to come to the second turning point, the green dot. That's the call to action. This is kind of the right at the end. You're defining what you're asking the audience to do or what takeaway they can get from your presentation. Successful presentations will help their audience change, grow, and become better. So it's important to clearly state exactly how you want the audience to change. This step gives the audience the next step to adopt a new way of thinking. Finally, you're going to go to a new way. That's right at the end of your presentation, where they're adopting your idea and they're taking it into clinical practice. And as you look, this is at a higher level than the beginning. You're elevating them. You're making them better. You're making their practice better. And the one way you're going to do this in the moment is to be authentic. People love authentic stories. They love vulnerability. There's no formulas. It's what makes us human. That's why characters like Woody are immensely popular because we see ourselves. It's what makes them human. Even superheroes are only interesting when we know that they have weaknesses, right? Storytellers, filmmakers, novelists know that emotion is what impacts people profoundly. Yes, event structure is important, but being authentic and injecting emotions is going to elevate your stories and make them more engaging and increase audience participation. So finally, we don't have enough time to go over all the stuff I want to tell you guys about storytelling, but you can go ahead and click on this, and there's a whole bunch more resources for how to develop your story structure, different types of story structure. This is more of a little primer to get you guys interested. In closing, it is all about the audience. They are the heroes. You are the Yoda. Try to engage them, make them feel about things that they're interested in, that they need to have dealt with. Go ahead, step back from PowerPoint, go analog, use your sticky notes, your whiteboard, your pen and paper, and find your core message. What's the one take-home point that you're going to build your structure around? Then go ahead and storyboard it, right? Play like Pixar animator and draw some doodles. Get your narrative, get your structure down, and try to evoke that emotion that's really going to sell this to the audience and keep them engaged so that you can deliver your content, so that they're going to go home and they're going to change the way that they practice medicine or they interact with the world because of the ideas that you brought to them. So that was just a short whirlwind trip through some ideas that you guys can use to elevate your stories. If you want more, or you want to chat, or you want me to look at your story structure, please feel free to email me, message me on Twitter, however you guys want to get a hold of me. Okay? Thanks.